You are not failing because you do not know enough manifestation methods. You may be failing because every method you use is still being performed by the version of you who believes nothing has changed. That is the mistake. You visualize, but you visualize as someone trying to get. You affirm, but you affirm as someone waiting to be chosen. You script, but you script as someone begging life to finally agree. You revise the past, imagine the future, repeat the words, watch another lecture, and then the moment the outer world looks the same, you return to the old identity and call that reality. Neville warned against this more clearly than most people realize. The danger was never imagination. The danger was using imagination from the wrong state. The danger was turning a sacred act into a strategy of anxiety. The danger was praying, visualizing, and affirming from the feeling of absence, then wondering why absence kept feeling so real. This video is for the person who has been doing the work, but still feels trapped in the same pattern. The person who knows the words, knows the techniques, knows the quotes, but still checks the phone like the old self, still panics when nothing moves, still measures the invisible by the visible, still lets one delay cancel an entire inner decision. If that is you, the issue may not be effort, the issue may be location. You are trying to manifest from the state you were supposed to leave. By the end of this video, you will know the exact mistake Neville warned against, why it quietly destroys results, how to recognize it in yourself, and how to correct it tonight without adding another complicated method to your life. Not by forcing belief, not by pretending, not by repeating words until you are exhausted, but by moving the whole inner self to the end and refusing to keep praying from the middle. Because the great mistake is this: people try to use imagination to reach the fulfilled state, when Neville was pointing to something far more radical. Imagination must be entered from the fulfilled state. That sounds small. It is not. It is the difference between a person knocking on a locked door and a person waking up inside the house. Most people never notice which one they are doing. They close their eyes and imagine the thing. But underneath the image, the feeling is still, I need this to happen. They say, I am chosen. But underneath the words, the feeling is, please choose me. They say, I am wealthy. But underneath the sentence, the body still worships the lack. They say, it is done. But 5 minutes later, they check the world to see whether it has obeyed yet. And that checking reveals the true state. It was never done inside. It was only being attempted. So let me be direct. Technique is not the same as assumption. Repetition is not the same as acceptance. Visualization is not the same as occupancy. You can repeat a sentence for 30 days and still never live in it. You can imagine a scene every night and still step out of it as the same frightened person. You can say, it is done, while your nervous system, your posture, your decisions, and your secret conversations all say, no, it is not. This is why people get exhausted. They are not only trying to manifest the desire, they are trying to drag the old self into the new life without letting it die. They want the result to change, but they keep the same identity that made the result feel distant. They want love, but continue being the one who is not chosen. They want wealth, but continue being the one who is waiting for rescue. They want a new reality, but continue living as the person who asks the old reality for permission. Neville's warning was not soft. You cannot serve two states. You cannot live in the state of lack all day and visit the state of fulfillment for 10 minutes at night, then wonder why lack feels more natural. The dominant state wins, not the prettiest sentence, not the most dramatic visualization, not the most complicated routine. The state you return to when you are triggered is the state that is still ruling you. That is where the real work begins. Ask yourself this after you imagine, who are you when you open your eyes? Do you become the one who has it, or the one who is waiting to see if it worked? After you affirm, do you move with inner certainty, or do you scan the world for proof? After you say, it is done, do you rest, or do you immediately ask why nothing has changed? Your answer reveals the state more than your words ever could. This is the painful part. Most people are not manifesting from desire. They are manifesting from surveillance. They are watching reality like a nervous guard, waiting for evidence, checking for movement, testing if the method worked, counting the minutes, looking for signs, looking for proof. But the person who already has it does not watch the door with panic. The person who already has it inhabits a different inner world. And the ordinary moments are where the state is revealed, not when the music is playing, not when the candle is lit, Not when the perfect scene is looping. The state is revealed when the text is not answered, when the bill appears, when the result is delayed, when someone else gets what you wanted, when your body wants to say, "See, nothing works for me." That is the exact moment Neville's warning becomes practical. Do you return to the old state, or do you remain faithful to the unseen fact? That word matters. Faithful, not emotional, not excited, not pretending. Faithful. To be faithful to the assumption means you do not betray it every time the senses report the old story. You do not need to fight the old story. You do not need to scream over it. You simply refuse to crown it again. Here is the correction. Stop asking, "How do I get this?" Ask, "Who would I be if this were already resolved?" Not in theory. Actually, how would you breathe? What would you stop chasing? What would you stop checking? What would your inner speech sound like? What would you no longer explain? What would you no longer fear losing? What would you no longer beg for? The end is not just a picture. The end is a self. That is the part people skip. They imagine the object, but they do not enter the self. They picture the relationship, but remain the abandoned one. They picture the money, but remain the desperate one. They picture success, but remain the person asking if they are allowed to be seen. Neville's work was not about daydreaming. It was about assuming a state so completely that the state begins to think through you, feel through you, and move through you. So tonight, do this simply. Choose one desire. Only one. Not because you cannot have more, but because scattered desire creates scattered identity. Pick the one thing that currently exposes the old self the most. The one thing that makes you check, panic, beg, compare, or collapse. That is where the old state is strongest, so that is where the assumption must be trained. Now ask, if this were already done, what ordinary scene would imply it? Not the dramatic moment, not the explosion, not the applause. Choose something after the fact. A small scene that would naturally happen if the desire were already fulfilled. A conversation, a message, a familiar room. Your own hand doing something calmly. Your body resting because the search is over. The scene should feel normal, because fulfillment is normal to the one who possesses it. Then enter it at night, when the body is tired and the outer world has less command over your attention. Do not watch the scene like a movie. Enter it as the person inside it. Hear what you would hear, touch what you would touch. Feel the quiet relief of not needing to get it anymore. The key is not intensity. The key is naturalness. You are not trying to explode with emotion. You are trying to make the fulfilled state feel like home. And when the scene feels real enough, stop. Do not keep digging it up. Do not immediately check whether reality shifted. Do not finish imagining and then return to asking, where is it? That is the mistake. The moment after the method is often more important than the method itself. Because that is when the old self tries to reclaim the throne. This is where the old new thought writers become useful. Before manifestation became an online world of infinite techniques, authors like Elsie Lincoln Benedict were teaching people how desire becomes organized through the mind, through habit, through attention, and through the inner pattern a person lives from. Her work was not about collecting random tricks. They are about understanding the inner mechanism behind desire. What kind a person receives, what kind of mind accepts, what kind of state makes the desired thing feel natural instead of distant. That is why I left something below for you. Not another technique to collect. Not another sentence to repeat while staying the same. It is a free doorway into the older framework behind this exact idea. How desire becomes natural to the mind before it becomes visible in the world. If this video exposed the mistake you have been making, do not let the old self turn this into just another video you liked and forgot. Open the link below while the insight is still alive. Let the page explain the next step. Your job right now is simple. If you felt the sting of recognition, click before the old pattern talks you out of it. Now the next day is the test, not the night, not the beautiful moment of imagination. The test is the morning after, when the outer world still looks familiar. This is where most bow people, they say, I imagined it, but nothing changed. But listen carefully. If you say that, you have already returned to the old state. You are measuring the unseen by the seen. You are asking the old world to give you permission to believe in the new one. The correction is not to deny what you see. The correction is to stop letting what you see define who you are. There is a difference. You can look at an unpaid bill without becoming the person who is doomed. You can see silence without becoming the person who is unwanted. You can see delay without becoming the person who is forgotten. The outer condition may still be present, but it does not get to name you. During the day, your job is not to force the desire. Your job is to remain in the state implied by the end. When the old thought rises, do not debate it for 20 minutes. Do not panic because it appeared. A thought is not a state until you identify with it. Let it pass, and return to the fulfilled identity. If the old voice says, "Nothing is working," answer silently, "I am not waiting from lack, I am living from the end." If the old voice says, "What if it never happens?" answer, "I do not ask the old state to prophesy my life." This is not denial. This is loyalty. Loyalty to the new state means you stop feeding the old one with your attention. Every time you tell the same story, you strengthen the same self. Every time you complain as the abandoned one, the broke one, the late one, the unlucky one, the unseen one, you rehearse the identity you claim you are leaving. The mistake is thinking the method happens only when your eyes are closed. The method continues in the way you speak to yourself after life touches the wound. There is a moment in every manifestation process where you have to stop being a student of the desire and become the occupant of it. A student studies it. An occupant lives from it. A student asks if it is possible. An occupant asks what is natural now. A student keeps looking for the next key. An occupant turns the key already in their hand. So ask yourself honestly, are you trying to become the person who has it, or are you only trying to get the thing while remaining the person who does not? That question will expose almost everything. Neville's correction was inner acceptance first, not outer proof first. Inner acceptance first. The world follows the state. But if you keep abandoning the state to interrogate the world, you interrupt the very thing you claim to be building. Tonight, make it clean. One desire, one after the fact scene, one fulfilled self. Enter it softly. Feel the naturalness leaped from it. Tomorrow, do not ask the world whether it worked. Ask yourself whether you remained loyal, and if you fall out, do not turn that into failure. That is another mistake. The old self loves to use one slip as proof that nothing changed. Do not give it that victory, restarn. That is all. Return to the end, to the self, restarn to the assumption. The power is not in never falling. The power is in no longer making the fall your home. This is the part almost nobody wants to hear. Assumption is not a mood, it is a dwelling place. You do not visit it only when you need comfort. You live there long enough for it to become natural. And naturalness is the secret. When the end feels natural, you stop forcing it. When you stop forcing it, you stop contradicting it. When you stop contradicting it, your choices, reactions, standards, and attention begin to reorganize around it. That is why you cannot fake this with words alone. You must notice who is speaking. When you say, "It is done," who is saying it? The one who knows, or the one who is desperate for it to be true? When you say, "I am loved," who is saying it? The one who rests in love, or the one who feels abandoned and is trying to cover the wound? When you say, "Wealth is mine," who is saying it? The owner, or the beggar wearing a crown for 5 minutes? Do not use that question to shame yourself. Use it to locate yourself. The moment you locate the old state, you can leave it. You cannot leave a room you refuse to admit you are standing in. So here is the final correction in one line. Stop using manifestation to convince yourself it will happen. Use imagination to experience that it is already true in consciousness. Then live as the one to whom it is natural. That is it. That is the line between method and mistake. If you use the method to beg, you remain a beggar. If you use the method to occupy, you become the occupant. If you use the method to check, you remain uncertain. If you use the method to dwell, the old self begins to starve. Tonight, before sleep, do not try to manifest everything. Choose the one thing. Build the small scene after the fact. Enter it. Feel the naturalness. Sleep from it. Tomorrow, protect it. When the world shows the old picture, do not worship the old picture. When the old voice returns, do not sign the contract again. When your senses argue, remember, they are reporting what has been, not deciding what you are. And if this message exposed the mistake you have been making, type "I return to the end" in the comments. Not as a performance, as a mark, a decision, a line drawn between the old way of trying and the new way of occupying. Neville warned you because the mistake is subtle. It feels responsible. It feels like effort. It feels like being serious about your desire. But many times, the obsession with methods is only fear wearing discipline. The checking is only doubt asking for evidence. The constant searching is only the old state delaying its own death. Let it die. Not violently, not dramatically. Let it die by no longer feeding it. Let it die every time you refuse to call delay defeat. Let it die every time you stop asking the old world for permission. Let it die every time you return to the end without needing applause. Let it die until the fulfilled state feels less like imagination and more like home. And now there is one deeper layer. Even after you understand this, the old identity can still be the one trying to assume the end. It can take a new sentence and speak it from the old wound. It can take a new method and use it to protect the same old fear. It can even say, I am living in the end, while secretly still living as the person who is trying to get there. That is why the next thing you need to understand is the identity behind the method. Because if the old self is the one using the law, the old assumption is still in control. I broke down exactly how to recognize that wrong identity and step out of it here.